take all of the values, divide it by the number of values that are there to get a mean or an average value. And I'm not looking at an average value.
That would be my question then. With 16,000 acre feet, what you're saying it has, and we're trying to figure out what the concentration may be that would actually enter the total pounds that would actually enter Ponset. And so, if we're not going to use 0.2, where are the numbers that you're going to come from? Just coming out of the atmosphere?
The numbers for the snow melt, those are the ones that are presented between that 5 and 200. What comes from the Sioux River is going to depend on what conditions we're controlling the flow on the Sioux River at that particular time. In order to use an average, in order to use some relationship where I could predict what the value is, I have to have enough data to work with. And even with this, there's 71 data points here. There's still a bunch of values here. If I have a flow of 250, what could I expect? I don't know if there's a range of numbers. If I had a flow around 15, I must have, most of the numbers lined up there. I don't know what that number is. So using an average, to me, is an improper way to do that. That implies that all of these have an equal weight in determining what is going on. And there's a lot of factors that can control what that phosphorus level is in the river.
So when I read this paragraph, and it says that would be at most 200 pounds, could be as little as 5 pounds, depending on age and depth of snowpack, and that really has no relation to what actually will occur.
That would be the water that would be available from the snowpack that's there, we don't want to start adding that
issue with
Sioux
Sioux River water.
Let me object. Could the witness please finish her statement before he interrupts?
I'm done. Thank you.
Okay. Let me redirect, gentlemen.
I just have a few very brief questions. One, Ms. Best asked whether or not you had been using any of the data recently collected by individuals in the employ of DENR and GFP as to phosphorus samplings, and you indicated you have not. Why is that?
I wanted the samples that wouldn't be biased by issues being raised, so I looked for those samples that would have been taken in the normal course of business in monitoring. So the samples that I look for out at the STORAT database are those that were taken as a normal business of monitoring. Not just phosphorus was being analyzed. There are a whole suite of different compounds were being analyzed. And I didn't want any bias in those samples where they may have taken them at specific time periods prompted by a specific concern, where in STORAT, especially the river values, you go out and they're about every 2 weeks. Or in certain years you can see that they go out at almost exactly the same time, year after year, and they take that data. So it's fairly random, I would say.
And now there was also a question. There seems to be a hang-up on this term of a terminal lake, and whether or not Lake Ponset can at any time be considered a terminal lake. Are there times that Ponset would not be a terminal lake if water was flowing out over the sill?
That's basically it. It would not be a terminal lake. Basically, a terminal lake is one where you have all the flow in but no flow out. And if you have flow going out, then it's no longer acting as a terminal lake. You have something that can flush material through that lake system.
By virtue of having more water in the lake and it being able to flow out of the gates, it ceases to be a terminal lake, correct?
Correct.
I have no further questions.
Board have any questions?
Just one. In your, somebody's exhibit 10.
That's this one.
The question I have, and it seems to be on a lot of people's minds here, is the difference perhaps between concentration of phosphorus versus total pounds of phosphorus. My question would be, the line that you have drawn is probably a mean or something, but
yeah.
if you eliminate all of the other variables such as inflow and rainfall and moisture, would that line represent strictly a ratio of the volume in Lake Ponce?
Basically.
Okay, so we don't have any other things affecting it. As that water level drops, there's nothing else really affecting the concentration that's in the line that you have.
Basically, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a couple questions. At page 16 of your report, we discussed briefly the fact that South Dakota has no standard for phosphorus in lakes, but that Minnesota has developed sort of lake-unique standards.
Mhm.
Is there any